Well, good morning. How are y'all? I'm from Texas originally, so y'all could slip out. How many people were here last night? Okay, maybe half of you or so? Okay, awesome. I love your church. You guys are so friendly. Have you been accused of that before? It's such an honor to be here. We've been getting to know the Tiltons a little bit in the last year, and some others of your staff, and have met up with them at a couple of different conferences and things, and so then they invited us to come here and just be with you. And so this is our favorite thing to do, is to come and share our testimonies at churches and help everybody out there in the church understand some of the things that happen in the quiet or in the secret of people's lives that are in pain, particularly over their sexual identity. That's our favorite thing to do, because we believe that you, the church body, are the solution to helping people find their way. Amen. Helping people, yeah, right? Like any person walking with God can hear God and can hear God on behalf of another person. And I know that it's a core value here at Father's House, that the Father loves us. He wants us to do well. He wants us to thrive. He wants us to experience His love and His peace and all of that. And so we're super excited to be here. Chuck just introduced the team. We also have a few others that are going to join us this morning via the miracle of the interwebs. Over Zoom, we'll have a few others of our team that'll speak to you this morning as well. So once you go to the next slide there, I'll just, in the way of introductions here, that the lady in the picture with me, that's my co-founder. That's Elizabeth Wanning. You'll get to hear, she's going to teach you some Bible this morning. But she and I really founded Change together. You can go to the next one. And this is some of our team. Most of that group there lives in Redding, California, where we're from. So I've been an associate pastor at Bethel Church in Redding, California, for 17 years, and that's not all of our staff. Most of those people are volunteer, by the way. So a lot of our crew, they're just giving out of the, they work a full-time job, and in their free time, they come and they serve our ministry. Next one. So, what's going to happen to you this weekend? This is going to be a group of us who the Lord has met us in our sexuality. the most messy, confusing, painful parts of our lives, the Lord has stepped into that and has transformed us in different ways, given us peace where we had pain or confusion. Some of the stories you'll hear, radical transformation of how people feel about themselves, about their sexual desires, those kinds of things. And so that's what this ministry is about, is reaching all of those people. And so I'd just like to let people know what we're about as a ministry is to protect biblical family values, kind of first and foremost. And we do that by responding to the LGBTQ scenario with understanding and then with action. Next one. And so what does that look like kind of practically? That looks like we provide care. So we meet with people, individuals, family members, parents, grandparents, and we connect those people to the Lord as best we can. And we get in there, we find out what they're dealing with, what they're feeling, what's happened to them, what the enemy has said to them, all those types of things. And then we help them hear the Lord and understand what the Bible says and offer as much care as we can. The other thing we do is we equip the church like we're doing today. And then we also advocate for freedoms, which I'll talk about that in a minute. You wouldn't necessarily assume that, from what I've told you so far, that we'd be politically active, and we never intended to, but that has happened as well. So, next slide. All right, and you can go on to the next one. So we started out in ministry. So Elizabeth is there, the one I introduced a minute ago, my co-founder. along with another gentleman. The three of us, like 8 years ago, we found each other. We're like, oh, you have that testimony? Oh, and you do too? And, it's not the type of thing that just comes up, and you don't hear this all the time. But we found each other at our church and just started talking, just saying, well, what did the Lord do for you? What were the things that were in your past that caused you to feel these ways, and how's the Lord led you, and what's the main revelations that the Lord's given you on your journey? All those types of things. And y'all, we would meet for an hour and a half or 2 hours every week, and we didn't run out of anything to talk about. I mean, we were just, this is like the essence of life kind of stuff for us. And after we did that for about a year, we realized, gosh, sure would be awesome to be able to help some other people with this. And so about the time we've kind of pulled our thoughts together and kind of categorized them to offer some teachings, then you can go to the next slide. Then we landed in this room, and that's not a church. That is a legislative hearing room at the California Capitol. And California, it's a longer story, but California was trying to pass a bill that would basically mandate that anybody that had any LGBTQ feelings would stay LGBTQ. You may not have permission to pursue something else. So it was a consumer fraud bill. So they were saying any assertion that a person could leave behind an LGBTQ life is fraud. That doesn't happen. People are born LGBT, and so it's fraud to suggest otherwise. So counseling, so an adult, let's say that a scenario where, we know of these scenarios, you've got a 38-year-old female, she's got 2 kids, she has a husband, they've been married for 15 years, and something happens, somebody violates her. A man violates her, and now she starts dealing with same-sex attraction. That happens. And so she would not, if this bill passed, she would not have been able to get counseling to help her stay in her marriage and family and deal with this thing that has come into her life that she wasn't dealing with before. That's just one example. Any book that suggested, so I wrote a book with my story, that would have been illegal. Pretty draconian law, right? That's something we don't really think about today that could happen in America, and that was sitting in front of us. And so next thing, a friend of a friend of a friend, I'm minding my own business, and I get a phone call saying, we understand that you have this story and you're a pastor at a church. Would you mind testifying against this bill that has come up on Tuesday in the Capitol? And I thought, are you guys insane? What is wrong with you asking me that question? Of course I won't do something stupid like that, because this is California. This is, I will be the only person with that perspective in that hearing room. Nobody's heard stories like mine in the legislature probably, and then I just heard myself say, yeah, I'll do that. So Elizabeth went with me, and I had 5 days to prepare my 2-minute testimony. You have 2 minutes to make your whole point. Elizabeth had 5 minutes. They said, oh, we have extra time. Could you testify? So she did as well, and they looked at us like we had 3 heads, as we shared our stories. But they listened, and we left that. There were multiple hearings that we spoke in, and we left there going, well, I'm so glad that the Lord allowed us to do this, but we haven't changed anybody's minds. They're still going to vote the same way. And so we realized we need to do something more. So you can go to the next slide. So I got this idea. We need a book of testimonies, like STAT. And because they think that they don't know us, we could just be making this up. They don't know. So we phoned our friends, and they phoned their friends. And within 7 weeks' time, we had a professional, full-color book of 37 testimonies. Now that book has probably 70 testimonies, but it had 37 testimonies in there, basically telling Congress, hey, if someone wants to identify as whatever they want to identify as, that should be their right, but please don't take away my rights to identify however I feel led, or to follow my conscience or to follow my religious convictions or that kind of thing. And so we walked the halls of the Capitol, you can go in the next slide, and we went to every senator's office and we handed them the books. We signed the page, with my picture on it and my story, and said, please don't take away my freedoms. And on at that same time when we went to the senator's offices, we also, all of us, we printed these shirts that said changed on there so that we could be clear about what we were saying publicly. And then we stood on the Capitol steps and we shared 2.5 hours of our 5-minute testimonies. And y'all, that was picked up by Fox News and then went viral on Facebook. So we were doing a politically, all we were trying to do was to protect freedom for people to hear the message that we're sharing with you today and to have peace in their lives, but the Lord used it to spread the gospel all over the planet because 1 million+ views just of those testimonies happened over social media. And y'all, miraculously, that bill was voted through every single committee, like with flying colors. It was uncontested almost all the way through Congress, and then went to the governor's desk to sign it because it passed. And the governor had committed to sign the bill, and at 9 a.m. on this day in September 2018. And 1 hour before the bill was to be signed, I got a phone call from my then senator friend, because all of a sudden now we have friends that are senators. And he said, hey, you guys got what you prayed for? He said, yeah, the bill was set to be signed by the governor in an hour, but the gay identified sponsor of the bill withdrew the bill this morning. Is that crazy? Yeah. So we never intended to be politically active. You can go to the next slide. But there we were. And the fun thing is, it accidentally started a movement. So now we call ourselves the Changed Movement because since that went out there so far, then we started getting messages from all these people that we didn't know saying, well, that's my story too. Well, that's my story. That's my wife's story. Well, we have a son, and then he's married now. And just all these people. And then we also had a flood of people writing in and saying, that's the conviction of my heart, but I need help. I'm still struggling in these different ways. And so it's fascinating. God's ways are so much higher than our ways, right? Next slide. And so where nobody knew who we were, we were a little ministry up, out of Bethel Church in Redding. And overnight, then all of these different media outlets, plus a whole bunch more, were interviewing us, sharing our testimonies, pointing people to us for more resources. Of course, we hadn't even scraped together any real resources except for that testimony book at that point. But the Lord just helped us get our message out there. Next. So today we have two different really expressions of changed. One is the ministry side. The other is what we call the advocacy side. Next. And I just want to just share with you. So our mission really that we're on, this vision that we have is that no matter where you go on the planet, there would be an equipped church that knows how to love people well and help connect people to Father God's love and for them to experience freedom in their identity all over the world. That is the mission that we're on. Next. So here's some pictures of us at the U.S. So now we go to Washington, D.C. 4 times a year. We are regularly talking with senators, congresspeople. We're helping draft legislation. We're we meet with senators, congresspeople, all of the primary conservative think tanks in Washington, D.C. We're on a first-name basis with them, and we help them understand this, like we're going to do today with you. What is the struggle beneath the struggle? What's the deepest issues in people's lives, so that we actually address things properly with legislation. We're not like band-aiding over something. We're not creating a law that says you can't do this when really the need is this other thing. So we give understanding to lawmakers so that they can continue to advocate for religious freedom for people and just make the right choices. If we understand it deeply, then we can make the right choices. So we do that. Next. here's us walking the halls of the U.S. Capitol and meeting with different congressional offices. Kind of fun. Next. And so then the advocacy side, really that bottom red, we are working to change the narrative and culture on LGBTQ to change the nation. Because we want the same thing that the LGBT, if you back far enough away from it, I would say that LGBTQ activists are wanting peace and freedom and thriving for people that see themselves as LGBTQ, right? They want these people to have all that will satiate and satisfy. We want the same thing. We've just discovered that finding peace, finding identity, finding satisfaction in life comes through allegiance to Jesus and laying down our lives for him, as opposed to me just trying to get my way, right? We really do want the same net result for people. We just need the freedom to be able to address what's really there. And so we are doing what we can to let education centers, universities, denominations, and then government leaders understand what's really going on in people's lives so that people really get what they need. Next. So a few of our resources, and then we'll jump on into our content today. Next. We have a newsletter. If you got your phone and you want to get our newsletter, you can scan that QR code, or so that we don't sit here and take too much time on this one slide, you can just go to changedmovement.com and you can sign up for our newsletter there. Next. We have a Facebook group. So all those people that started reaching out to us saying, hey, that's my story. I want to stay connected, or I need help on my journey. We created a closed Facebook group, and anybody is welcome to try to go and to join that group as well. It's called Changed Movement, and it's a Facebook group. It's a lot of fun, just testimony sharing in there and encouraging each other. Next. And then I've written a book. It's my story and the way that the Lord led me out of an LGBT, or out of a homosexual life. Next. Finding You then is the deeper dive. If anybody, it's like this is your own struggle, or you have a friend or a loved one that it's like, oh, they're asking for help out of an LGBT life. Next slide. Then Finding You is a 330-page guidebook with 50 videos. So it's like a comprehensive handhold. I put together basically the tool that I felt like I needed when I was a young person that I couldn't find. So that's there. Next one. And then there's the Changed book that shows you what it looks like. It's photos of these amazing people with these awesome testimonies of the Lord, and then their stories next to it. Next one. This, I pointed this out last night. I would love for everybody, we sell that book for $7, but we offer the electronic version for free. I would love for everybody to scan that and get a copy of this, because this little booklet, it's just a little booklet, but what it does is it exposes what is real, because has anybody figured out that not necessarily everything that the media tells us is 100% the truth? And did you know that I'll talk about this here. I won't tell the part too earlier, but there's a lot of misinformation with regard to sexual identity. Let's just say that. I'll talk about that in a little bit. Well, this book is an expose, a tastefully done, loving expose on what is the truth as opposed to what we've all been told. And we use 5 different people's testimonies, and then scientific studies. There's scriptural. It is a comprehensive but short education on what really is going on. When you see that someone has this struggle, what's really going on, as opposed to what we've been taught. So that's there for you if you need it. Next. And then I just want you to be aware of what all tools we have. We've got several different social media accounts out there on the major different platforms. Tons of testimonies, not just in the book. You can go to our website changethemovement.com, and you can read hundreds, probably at this point, of testimonies on there. We have a blog. We have one-on-one support. So like if churches or leaders or parents or things like that, if you contact us, we do our best to try to facilitate like one-on-one support for people as well. We've got a bunch of programs and free videos, things like there's a lot. We have a lot of resources basically. So if you're needing help beyond what you learned today, changethemovement.com. Next. And then some things that are coming. The training that you're getting today, we have an even more in-depth version of this training coming out in March. In case you're like, oh, that was helpful, but I need a little more. That's called Navigating LGBTQ, and that'll be available in March. It's a video series, as well as we are piloting a discipleship model. So, I've published the different resources for those that are looking for discipleship themselves. But we're actually taking that content and putting it into a class model, and doing that at our church. We've taken a group of 9 or 10 people and are walking them through. We have small group time, and we have worship, and we have a teaching, and we have different activations and all that stuff. And so anyway, our hope is that within a year or so from now, we would have filmed that and then offered that to churches to be able to have this kind of discipleship program in their own churches. And we just have more support as well for coming that we're bringing online in the coming months as well for parents and pastors and individuals. And next one. And if anybody feels like, oh, I feel led to give toward that, you can also do that on our website, where we have a campaign to help us build out several different initiatives in Washington, D.C., as well as just adding to our staff to be able to get the message out there further. Next. Okay, is everybody like overwhelmed now? You're like, that's a lot. I kind of am. Just looking at all that, I'm like, I'm overwhelmed. There's a lot I'm supposed to be doing right now. I'm kidding. All right, do you want to hear some testimonies? Okay. All right, so Sam, are we able to get Amy? Y'all, Amy is the sweetest. She is such a gift to us. This is Amy Christine, and she's been with us for a number of years. She's originally from Kansas City, in the IHOP world, and has just a beautiful, beautiful testimony. She works in Bethel's Transformation Center, so she's in there doing inner healing prayer ministry with people, particularly if it's, she can minister to anybody, but people that are struggling with their sexual identity will come to her, and she just loves them into a place of health. So let's see if she's going to pop up here. That's her. She's just not moving. But well, there she is. Oh, she's alive. Are you there, girl?
I'm here.
All right. Hey, welcome to these are very friendly people. You're among friends.
Amazing.
All right. Well, let them have it. Tell them who you are and what God's done.
All right. Hi, guys. Good morning. Like Ken said, I'm Amy, originally from Kansas City. I've been on the Change team for 6 years now, and I'm a pastor and a counselor at Bethel. And it's really an honor to be able to share with you guys the very most vulnerable parts of my life. So I grew up in a Christian home with parents that loved me and did everything that they could to keep us safe. But unfortunately, they sheltered us so much that they didn't really prepare us for the world and for some of the real evils that can be out there. At the age of 4 until the age of about 7, every holiday we would get together with family, and my teenage cousins would molest me. And it started, they would bring me into a back bedroom, expose me to pornography, which I'm 37 years old, so porn back then was dirty magazines, dirty books, and they would make me act out what was in the books. And I remember asking one of the boys one time, like, why are you doing this to me? This little girl had no understanding about what was going on. And he said, well, God made women for men, and women are supposed to have sex with men and do whatever they want. And that's why God made you. So from a very, very young age, I learned that men were not safe. I went to my parents and said, had no language for what was going on, and said, um, I don't want to be around them. And they said, you are being a brat. You have to be around them. They're your family. Deal with it. So I also learned that adults, and specifically men, weren't going to keep me safe. I had to keep myself safe. By the time I hit 9 years old, around puberty, I started noticing same-sex attraction. I remember other girls were talking at school saying, oh, I want to hold hands and kiss this boy. And I remember thinking, I want to do that, but I want to do that with my best friend who's a girl. And again, had no language, just thought that I was weird, and was very, very confused, and also filled with shame because I didn't feel like a boy, but only boys dated girls. So just a lot of confusion. At the age of 15, I knew that I liked women, and in order to cover that, started dating guys and thought, everyone will leave me alone if I have a boyfriend. Unfortunately, one of the guys that I was dating tried to rape me. Fortunately, he didn't succeed. But at that point, I cemented in my mind, I am never letting a man get near me or take advantage of me. By the time I was 21, I was sick of wondering. I had never acted out with a woman, but I just needed to know what it felt like. I needed to have that experience so I could settle in my mind, yes, I am gay. Found a woman, dated her. It went really, really badly. And it scared me because I love Jesus with all my heart. And I'd always heard that, homosexuality is the unpardonable sin. You never, ever act out because God will send you straight to hell. So I had a lot of shame, but it also cemented in my mind that, oh no, I definitely am a lesbian. I threw myself into ministry thinking that if I just prayed hard enough and serve the Lord, that it would just go away. Unfortunately, that's not the way it works. So I started getting into relationships with women in secret, would get found out, humiliated. The church didn't know what to do with me. So they told me also, well, you're not fasting and praying enough. By the time I was 26 years old, 25 or 26, I remember saying, God, I can't keep grieving you like this. I have no attraction to men, and I know that you hate this, but I cannot change myself. And I don't know where to go. The church has no resources for me. So if you will send me just one person that understands me, that can help me, I will, do whatever they say. But if you don't send help, I want to die. I want to kill myself because I can't keep living like this. I trusted one friend in the entire world with my story who knew what was going on in my life. And I told her this, and she said, it's funny that you should say that. I met a woman at a conference clear across the country, and we just happened to meet, and she has a story of coming out of homosexuality. And I said, okay, so when you say that, I love the stories of the redemptive stories of like, Jesus showed up in my room and it just went away, but that wasn't helpful for my life. I needed practical tools because Jesus hadn't shown up in that way. And I honestly wasn't sure if he would. And she said, no. It was a process. It was beautiful. She walked out of homosexuality and Jesus completely restored her, and her story is amazing. And I said, for the love of God, please put me in contact with this woman, because now I feel like I have an ounce of hope. That woman was Elizabeth Wanning, the co-founder of Changed. And the first time I talked to her on the phone, I think within 10 minutes, I was sobbing my eyes out. And she said, I want to mentor you, and I'm not afraid of your same-sex attraction. In fact, she embraced me closer because she could see that I was so broken and so afraid of being loved and in so desperate need of Jesus to come in and rescue me from my own self. So she mentored me for a good 4 or 5 years, and I started seeing massive breakthrough. I, at the same time, started doing inner healing programs, counseling, getting healing for the rampant sexual abuse that I experienced. There were other things that happened throughout my life that I don't have time to go into, but I had a hatred of men. And so I started being brave enough to look at those issues and say, okay, Jesus, if you didn't make me gay, and if you say that there are good men in this world, and you say you have solutions and healing for what I've been through, oops, little glitch there. Sorry about that. Then I want whatever you have for me. And Elizabeth opened my eyes to the fact that my same-sex attraction wasn't this monster. It was a series of events that had happened, and she taught me how to let Jesus into those places. About 4 or 5 years after she had been mentoring me, I said, you know, I will do anything to work with you someday. This was when there was no change. She didn't have a ministry. She was just a woman going to Bethel Church. And she said, you know, haha, that's cute. And then the next day she texted me and she said, were you serious about wanting to work with me? And I said, yes. And she said, what if you moved to California? And at first, my first thought was, heck no, I'm not leaving Kansas City. And then the Holy Spirit said, as clear as day, what if you said yes? So I packed everything that I could fit into my Subaru, sold everything else, and moved to California because I believed that Jesus had healing for me. And I believed that he was going to start doing something powerfully, not only through me, but through people who had my story. And I wanted to be a part of it. I had to be a part of it. The Changed movement was formed, and I ended up doing Bethel's School of Ministry, which radically transformed my life. I got so much healing. There were good men around me that didn't want anything from me, dads and brothers and friends that started to heal those places that only a man could heal. Men did the damage. Men were instrumental in healing me. And I continued to be mentored by Elizabeth, and we tackled everything that came up in my heart while I was doing school. And I remember sitting in the shower one day, because God loves to corner me in the bathroom because I can't go anywhere. So I was sitting in the bathroom one day and I said, you know, Jesus, this, what used to be all consuming in my life, is now just a pebble. But even if you never take that pebble away, even if I struggle with same-sex attraction to some degree for the rest of my life, I surrender my life to you, and I will dedicate my life to helping people that were like me, helping people that had no hope, that were hanging on by a thread. And even if you never take it away, I surrender everything. And he showed me this open vision of my heart, and there was a chain that was wrapped around it, and it was so intertwined that no one could take it apart. Not even a jeweler could take it apart. And he came with golden scissors and he snipped the chain. He handed it to me and he said, "Here's your freedom." Whew. That part is always emotional. So after that, I never struggled with same-sex attraction again. That has been, gosh, almost 4 years now. And it's my honor and my privilege to help people that were where I was and say, hey, there actually is a way out and there actually is hope. Thank you so much, guys.
Thank you, Amy. My goodness. Every time I hear your story, amazing. Love you so much. Thank you.
Love you too.
Okay, talk to you later. All right, what do y'all think? Amazing? Wow. All right, next we have Leon. Hi, Leon.
Hey, can you hear me?
How are you?
Good, thank you.
Leon's another one of these folks that we wouldn't even know our way out of a paper bag without Leon. Leon is the behind-the-scenes genius that makes our whole world work, and is an amazing pastoral heart, just discipling men, and just a very important part of our team as well. So, all right, let them know who you are and what the Lord's done, Leon.
Cool. Hi guys, thanks for having us. So my name's Leon. I am originally from South Africa, and I came to do School of Ministry over in California 4 years ago, and then got to meet the Change team, and is still here. So I grew up in South Africa, and at the age of 7 years old, I got involved in sex play with other boys of the same age as me. That really started a lot of confusion in me. And through my teenage years, up to 18, I got involved with one other boy acting out sexually. I went to church with my parents, so I knew what the Bible said. And was really wrestling inside with God. Why am I feeling these feelings, and why did you make, if you are real, I would cry out to God and say, if you are real, take this away. So at the age of 14, I, for the first time, was thinking of committing suicide. Holy Spirit intervened without me even knowing it. I was sitting with pills in my hand in boarding school, and somehow I ended up giving the pills to a boy 2 years older than me who was a believer, and didn't know that until, quite on later. So at the age of 18, I moved to a different country and really just starting to numb these feelings I was feeling with pornography. I would go drinking, got involved in other things, and just really trying to numb all these feelings I was feeling. And I would cry out to God from time to time, like, God, if you are real, take this away. Nothing happened. And back in 2012, I was again feeling suicidal and really struggling. And then I said, I'm going to try this church thing one more time. So I went to a church, and the first Sunday I went, they talked about this Alpha course that they're going to start the following week. It's about exploring Christianity. And I went to this, and the very first night, the lady next to me asked the pastor the questions that I wanted to ask, but wasn't going to ask. And she basically asked what they will do if somebody homosexual come to their church. And the pastor just answered it so kindly and so with so much love and compassion. And it just did something inside of me that, I can trust these people. Fast forward, I did the course. Two of the men in the church came alongside me and they said, hey, we want to disciple you. So they invited me to a small group. And the first night they took my phone number and said, we're going to get together and read Bible together. And I'm thinking in my head, you are crazy. Why do you want to read Bible on a Wednesday? Isn't that something you do on a Sunday? And, it was just like, they just came alongside me. We would have a meal together. We were studying this book and read the Bible together. And I think a couple months in, I knew, God just started stirring in me that I should share with them this struggles with same-sex attraction that I've been having. And I finally got the courage together. I shared with them. In my head, I already decided they're going to reject me, but they just acted with so much compassion and so much love. They said they love me. They didn't really know what to do, but they said, we're going to walk with you. So that was really the start of my healing journey. And, over the next few years, I started opening up to more people. And then I was just, well, maybe I'm just a Christian that's going to struggle with same-sex attraction. Fast forward to 2018, I went to a conference. And during this conference, I just experienced the Holy Spirit and the power of God and encountering God like I've never done before. And one of my best friends was with me, and I told him over these 2 days, I think God's doing something with this sexuality thing. I could just hear God speaking to me. The conference ended the Saturday. The Monday morning, I woke up. So we were away, different town. I woke up and I could hear the voice of God in my head. And he said, you are free. And I've never heard it like that since. And I've never heard it like that before. But I knew when I heard that it was God and what he was talking about. And I was a little bit in shock, went out for a walk with coffee, had a coffee, and just came back so excited. And I could just feel something inside me change, something in my spirit changed. And then it was, the journey then started with the renewing of the mind. That was the big thing God did in me. Romans 12, you'll be transformed by the renewing of your mind. I was for 35 years thinking a certain way, and then God started rewiring the way I see myself, the way I'm looking at myself. I was just amazed by what God can do. From 2011, I would look in the mirror and I would punch myself. That's how much I didn't like who I was. And God just brought healing to all of that. And then I came to the School of Ministry and saw, the change team come to speak, and it gave me so much hope, because all of a sudden I'm like, oh wow, there's like people that's walked through this and there's like real testimonies, and it just gave me so much encouragement and hope. And God started showing me, also the peace, the peace of God came, in this area. I just started feeling so much peace, and God started bringing the healing. And over the next, during the last few years, God's really started to show me how He sees me. And just in this last year, God started showing me I was actually disqualifying myself from a great future God's got for me because of my past. And that's not what He's got for me. So yeah, there's so much hope. God's so kind, He's so patient, and you guys sitting there, you are the answer to a lot of this, because the people that came alongside me in the beginning of my journey was just normal people, that they didn't struggle with this. They didn't necessarily know what to do, how to react. Sometimes it was a little bit awkward, but we had one thing in common, and Jesus and God, and that really brought us close together. So yeah, thanks for your time. Enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you, Leon. Just
Awesome.
love you, man. Love your story. Just ministers every time I hear it. Thanks, man. Okay. So now we have Ivan. Look at Ivan. Hi, Ivan. Can you hear me?
I can hear you. Hello.
Good. Do you have any cats in the background?
I put him out of the room just to be safe.
Ivan's a cat lover. Ivan is just an amazing servant, lover of God. He's the most joyful person, y'all. I mean, if you just are having a down day, you should just go get near Ivan. You will brighten up. But he also was a guy that interned for me a while back, and then just stayed around. These people are precious, y'all. It's like they're just doing it because they love Jesus and because they want to help people. So, all right, well, let us hear your story, man.
All right. Good morning, everyone. Thank you for your time. My name is Ivan. I'll just start at the beginning. My journey with faith started when I was 5 years old. That's when my mother began to take us as a family to church. But around the same time, that's when I started having sexual experiences with boys my age and older. And that continued until I was 9. And I always thought of it as just a game we played. I didn't know we were doing anything wrong. And so from 9 to 11, I actually initiated that game with others, thinking that it was okay. And when I realized it wasn't, I got buried in shame and guilt. And I remember even at 13 experiencing suicidal thoughts. By 17, I was my same-sex attractions were pretty solidified, and I came out of the closet my junior year of high school. And I continued to go to church until about 22, and I said, look, like, I think this is my identity, and there's no way that it's changing. I've tried, I prayed, and this is me. So I walked away from my faith, and I dove right into a homosexual lifestyle. I was in relationships with men. I moved to a community that was predominantly LGBT, and I found friends that felt like family. I thought I was living my truth for the first time. I felt like I was finally free, and I thought I was happy for a moment until I realized I was still very much broken inside. And it didn't take long for me to grab a hold of substances and alcohol to self-medicate and deal with that depression that I was carrying for so long. Luckily, I had a mom who prayed and warred for me and fasted and loved me through that whole experience. I was in that lifestyle for about 12 years. And in those 12 years, I spiraled so hard out of control to the point where I was smoking crystal meth and I was escorting for money. And I found myself crying out to God and saying, I don't know how my life got to this point. And I heard him say, "I'm ready to show you how good life can be if you follow me." And I said, with tears in my eyes, I said, "Yes, Lord, I want that." And then several days later, I had a spiritual experience that lasted 6 days. I was seeing into the spirit, and what initially looked like writing on the wall, I quickly realized were people describing the reality of hell, and people wanting to warn their loved ones, and I thought I had lost my mind because I did too many drugs. So I went to bed. I took a sleeping pill, went to bed, and I woke up the next day and I was still seeing in the spirit. I was sober, still seeing in the spirit. And this opened the door to 6 consecutive days of seeing and experiencing these demonic attacks. And thankfully, the Lord met me in the midst of all that chaos, filled me with His Spirit. And I heard Him as clear as day. I would hear Him speak to me how much He loved me. And the end of that experience, I had my last encounter with the demonic. My room filled up with these demonic snakes everywhere, and they started wrapping around my body and biting into me, and I couldn't move, and I was just pinned on the bed. And I told the Lord, "I don't care what happens to me because I know that you got through to my heart." And I started hearing the most beautiful angelic singing above me. And then I saw flashes of light coming in and out of my room. I knew it was Jesus. I saw his white robe, I saw his dark hair, and just tracers of him coming in and out, pulling the snakes off my body. And I finally got free and I jumped off my bed to worship him. And as I was bowing down, I couldn't see him. I could just see his sandal prints walking towards me. And in each sandal print was letters of love, how much he loved me. And the demons were trying to scribble out his footprints. But as he got directly in front of me, he just showed me a picture of the cross. And on the cross, all the snakes were piling on it. And the cross took all the snakes out of my room. And then he showed me a picture of me on my knees like I was. And on my back it said cleansed. And that started my love walk with the Lord. I said, "You can have my life. I surrender. I'm following you." And I told him, I said, like, "I don't know if sexuality can change, but I'm gonna pursue you." And I became a worshiper, a person of his presence, someone that just loved the secret place. Um, eh, from that encounter, all my addictions fell off instantly. But as I began to walk with him, and he showed me what it meant to be a son, and he showed me how to walk in purity for the first time. That's when I began to see the shift in my attractions. When he'd walk me through scriptures and I would see the beauty of his design, and I'd say, "Hey, Lord, I actually want that for myself. I partner with that truth. Your design was perfect the way it was, and I want that for me." Um, and then the Lord connected me to a spirit-filled church where I had a pastor that loved me and discipled me. And then I had godly men around me to show me what godly masculinity looks like. And there was so much healing there for me just from having these relationships with pure men of God. And yeah, that encounter was 6 years ago, and I've just been running with the Lord ever since. And now I have healthy sexual desires. I have such a hope and excitement for my future and having a wife and children. And yeah, the Lord has taken decades of depression and given me just joy and peace that overflows. And yeah, I'm just so grateful. He's been so good to me. Thank you, guys.
Amazing. Wow. Can y'all believe his testimony? Is that amazing how the Lord let him see in the spirit realm? This is why we do what we do, why we share what we share, is because there's a whole different world going on behind the scenes, isn't there? And God really knows what really satiates the desires of every person's heart. If y'all could be around Ivan, he went from the story that you heard of real brokenness and sin, depths of sin, to he's just at peace and joyful. He walks in the room and you just feel better because he's carrying the presence of the Lord. And oh my goodness, like all the ways that you tried to fulfill yourself, right, Ivan? And it's like now he's just at rest. It's well with his soul. And we want that for every person. So God bless you, Ivan. Thank you so much, man. We'll see you later.
Bye.